Hello, I'm Yolanda and I am locating cozy, and this is part 2 or part 3 of the whole discussion about what's great about Zaragoza, here with my wonderful favorite youngest child, Keila. She's been living in Spain since 2016, and I just wanted to expound on a vlog that I already posted about some of the great things and experiences about Zaragoza. And since my daughter's been living here since 2016, I felt like she would be able to give some great insight. As you know, I like to ramble. I go off on tangents. It happens. It is what it is. And she comes by it honestly. So if it happens, it happens. Okay? We know that what brought you to Spain was you are a woman of the world, and you got the opportunity to come and actually teach English here in Spain. What was your initial, I guess, let's say 6 months in, what was your feeling of the community, the population, the people here?
6 months in, what was my view of the people in Spain? Well, I don't want to generalize, so let me just start by saying that, you know, everybody's different. But 6 months in, first of all, I should say that I really hadn't like integrated into the Spanish community. So everybody that was in my circle was an expat. Yeah, they were all expats, so I didn't really know much about Spanish people, and I really still didn't know much about Spanish culture. A lot of what I got in the first 6 months as far as like Spanish culture, I wasn't a fan. I'm not gonna lie, that what I got was ignorant questions from people, and I'm trying to find something positive.
We'll get there. It's like, I mean, everything, here's the thing, and I appreciate it. Maybe this will give you a little time. We don't want to paint the picture that, you know, you move to this beautiful place and everything in your world's going to change and it's just going to be perfect. There are challenges. That, you know, there's pros and cons, there's challenges, there's good days, there's bad days. Especially if you're coming someplace where not a lot of black people, within, you know, there's more expats, there's not like a bunch of like locals living here that are people of color. So there's challenges all the way around. So it's good that we're not just going to be like, oh, it was just wonderful all the time. No, it's not. Come on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I had a pretty negative view on, I guess, society here, but my quality of life was so good that I was just like, well, you know, if I just stay in my little bubble, then it'll be fine. And I met great people. I met great people who were Spanish. A lot of the teachers that I worked with, and people were very welcoming to me, and who knew me, right? Who knew where I was coming from. They were welcoming to me and wanted to interact with me. A lot of them wanted to practice English. And so I met a lot of great people. So I should say that. I think that when I say that there were more, the ignorant comments were not the majority of my experience here. It was just interesting that I was hearing so many comments that were abrasive to me, because, you know, in the United States, people always people view the United States as such a racist place, but I can't tell you, I don't remember having so many in your face like racist moments, whether they be I'm talking more about like microaggressions. Here there's a lot of those moments, and I think it's just because people, I don't know, I guess they really hadn't been around people of color, and so like they don't know the rules. They don't know, like, to me it just feels like, just be like a normal human being, like however you would be with your friends, like you would do that with a black person or anybody outside of your culture. But I don't know, there were just some things that were said that were just like, ooh, or things that would be done and it's just like, ugh. And because it was more than what I'd experienced in the United States in a direct way like that, it was annoying. It was just like a little fly that was kind of often around, and I was just always having to swat it away.
So give us one example. You know, of course, again, life ain't perfect, but it's good. But give us one example of maybe something that was like, what the hell?
I mean, that's the thing. They're like small comments. So like a teacher who was like, you don't look like anybody who I would expect to be from Texas. Because they're like literally expecting a cowboy, like literally expecting you to be a white man with a cowboy hat and on a horse. Or I was walking down the street and this old man walked up to me and said, "Do you like my country? How are you liking my country?"
He owns it.
I didn't know this person. It was just somebody who walked by me and who asked that. Things like that. And so they're not like hurtful or anything like that. It was just like these weird little comments that were just enough to make me feel like I'm definitely other. I'm definitely outside of this community. So those little things. But in the first and then the food, that was the other thing that was a struggle for me. I travel for food and I had a really hard time finding good food. Honestly, I hadn't started finding good Spanish food until maybe the last like 2 years. Good Spanish food. It exists. It's just that, first of all, our take as Americans, I will speak in general terms for this. Like, I think as Americans, what we decide is what we view as good food is usually highly salted, high in fat, or high in fat, right?
Deep fried.
Yeah, and I mean like bacon or cheese or heavy whipping cream. And that's what all of our foods are kind of like based around, or butter, right? Those are the things that really make
You
our
see my
foods...
face right now. I'm like, oh, I miss bacon.
That's what makes our food like rich and delicious, and I love it. However, here they don't focus so much on trying to like alter foods to be super delicious. So they're not like, oh well, if I smother it in a butter-based sauce, or if I cover this in cheese, that's gonna make it tasty. It's really like, here's the ingredient. This is the thing that I grew from the earth. It's beautiful. It's delicious as it is. So let me just like cook it and then sprinkle some salt on it.
if that.
Yeah.
So, and the quality of the food here is better.
Yeah.
One thing, so right now, again, I'm staying with my daughter here. I cook. She cooks. She's culinary degree. She cooks. Her husband cooks. So we've been eating well here. And actually, to the point that the food is so good that we're making here at home. It's like it beats some of the restaurants. I would say most of the restaurants here, quite frankly. But that's also because we're all three great cooks. Okay, yeah, I'm patting myself and giving myself kudos and giving her kudos. So, but I will also say that the food, the restaurant scene has increased greatly. There are still some hit or misses. Don't make no mistake. Some of the restaurants, you want to go and go to the cafes or whatever. And I'm like, what is this? I'm sick of croquettes. I love bechamel sauce. I'm sick of croquettes. Okay. I don't want to, I don't want to see croquettes with just stuff with bechamel sauce again for probably ever. But there are some great restaurants around here. Bunker Bar. Yeah. There are some really great restaurants around here. But, the quality of the groceries and the quality of the food is next level. And one of the examples is, bread is not my friend. I enjoy bread, but I know it's not my friend, pretty much. Haven't had any issues here since I've been here because the quality of the bread is just so good. Getting some random mass-produced bread at the grocery store that was shipped in from somewhere else, it's not happening. It's just really great quality here. Sometimes the flavorings can be a little challenging, or lack of flavorings can be a little challenging, but there's a get around. One of my hardest things was actually asking for salt. I felt bad asking for salt. Sometimes when I go to a restaurant, I'm scared I'm going to offend somebody, and I'm finally getting over that. So what made you consider actually staying here long term, beyond the scope? Because you could have gotten a maybe a teaching job and asked to be relocated somewhere else. So what made you decide that Zaragoza, okay, would be someplace to really be long term?
So I've gone back and forth. I always am checking in with myself. So I've asked myself several times, like, is this where you need to be? Is this where you need to be? And I've considered going to other places. like Madrid, because Madrid has a lot of the things that I do miss here in Zaragoza, primarily the communities that I was hoping to be around. Having Black communities, that's a lot easier in Madrid. Communities of people who, like entrepreneurs, things like that. It felt like it would be easier to find those things in Madrid, and good food, honestly. All of those things felt like they would be easier to find in Madrid. But Zaragoza has continuously grown since I got here. So in 2016, when I got here, a lot of things that I needed for my own comfort were very difficult to find here. And I swear, it's like every time I would think, oh, this thing is missing here, within a year or two, that thing is here in Zaragoza. Like, it's just growing and growing. And now it's at the point where I see that it's on the trajectory to have all of the things that I would be looking for in Madrid. And so, but then without having like the crowdedness and, you know, the things that come along with being in a really big touristic city. And so I'm just like, well, I'm just going to chill here and let everything come to me at this point. So yeah, I've questioned like being in different places. Honestly, Zaragoza's not like a super pretty city.
I think it's beautiful.
Oh, okay. Well, it's brown. It's very brown. There's not much greener, or the greener that's here is because the city has invested in making like green areas, but it's naturally a rock. So it's there here in Spain. The point is that here in Spain, there are much more beautiful areas to live in all around me, actually. Like, you can actually, if you take a train, you can tell that you've arrived in Zaragoza, because it just all of a sudden is just brown. So you're like green, 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 brown, Zaragoza. Here we go.
What was the biggest, I guess, store opening or something that came to Zaragoza where you were like, oh my gosh, whether it was something from based out of the U.S. or something that you saw in Madrid? What was the nicest, like, oh, it's finally here?
Well, there's been so many. I think one of the first ones was a tapioca, like a boba shop.
Okay.
Tapioca Taiwan. Little balls, bubble tea, that's what it's called. Yeah. Bubble tea shop. That was very exciting. It was something that I was missing. It's not something I need, it's just something that I missed, and it was actually something that I used to get like at least once a week, probably more than I should have gotten it back at home. So I was very happy to see when that opened here. At one point we had two, actually I think we have two now, or I don't know. Anyways, they've like opened and closed, but there's always been one around since that point. What else? When they've opened, sometimes it's like products that start to be available in the grocery stores that weren't available before. Like, I just noticed that they're selling matcha tea in the Mercadona, which is like just the regular grocery store here, which I used to have to go to the Chinese shop to get, which I still go to the Chinese shop to get because it's way cheaper there and it's probably better quality. I don't know about the qualities, but I'm definitely still gonna keep going there. But it's just cool to see, like, oh, like they're selling these. They sell mochi at the grocery store at the Mercadona here now. Like, these things are just signs that we're progressing, that we're getting a little bit more cultured here, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, one of my big excitements when I came back, especially this time around, or even last time back in October, November, was they have more cocktail bars. I was like, oh, hey, because the last time, well, the first or second time I came, you know, I'm sure they have places, but like Moonlight Experimental was like the place to go, which had some, you know, crazy, like, what do they call it?
It's an experimental bar. Like,
thank you.
Their cocktails, you don't go there just for like a beer. Like, you go there for a story and an experience. Like, yes, this is the experience. Enjoy. Here's the show that comes along with it.
Yes,
it's that type of place, and that's fun. But like, sometimes you just want a good cocktail, and that's it.
So now they have a lot more of those, and I have discovered
there's an intersection of like the city is growing, and so there are more things available. But then there's also that we're new here, and so it's just taking us this long to discover something. So some things I think were here and available, some things, but we just didn't know about them because we're still learning the city. And so, for example, like good food or good cocktails, I think that those things, well, first of all, good food was definitely here before we got here. But it took us a long time to find them because there's so many restaurants, and the ones that are like on the main streets that you always pass are not always necessarily the best places to eat or the places that look most appetizing. A really something that really bothers me here is that the places that you can tell they invested so much money in the appearance are usually not the places that you want to eat at, because they're not usually the ones that have the most delicious food. And so the places that I've discovered now that have like really good food are places I've seen so many times. I passed it by so many times, and I finally went in there and I was like, holy crap, like I've been sleeping on this place forever, and they've got the best coffee or the best sandwiches here.
Yeah. What was that place, that Italian place right next to the ruins that we went to? Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Just good.
That one's actually pretty new, but yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Maybe like the past.
The best pizza, the best. Yeah, everything was just so. That pizza was so good. Yeah. So, what do you think about the diversity here? As far as do you see growth in diversity here? Because one of the things I had said in my previous video was that. It seems like most of the minority or people that are coming here are for teaching. Do you see growth in people just coming more, not necessarily just to teach? What do you see?
So first, there's diverse. There are Black people here. There have been, actually, I think Zaragoza's got one of the highest ratios of Black people in Spain.
Really?
One of them.
Okay.
But, and this is not a negative thing, the difference is that I think when I'm thinking about Black people, I'm thinking about people who are in like the same exact position as me. But the Black communities that are here are people who have immigrated here from African countries like Senegal, Ghana. I have not met a lot of Nigerians here, but yeah, African countries. And that means that they're having a different experience. And so whenever I first got here, a lot of the Black people that I saw were selling stuff on the streets, like
the purses. Yeah. Okay,
yeah. So they were doing that, or I would see. That was literally the only time I ever saw Black people when I first got here. Honestly.
In Madrid, yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Well, in Madrid, that was different. For me, that was different.
Okay.
But here in Zaragoza, that was the only time I ever saw Black people whenever I first got here.
Oh, wow.
You can't, like, finding someone who's Black who works in a grocery store anywhere in society. Like, I didn't see any Black people working anywhere. So, yeah, there are Black people here. It's just the communities are having different experiences. Being immigrants from African countries, you're treated differently. Your situation is different. Your privilege is different than Black folks who are coming here because they feel like it, just on a whim, to some extent, from the United States or England or wherever. So that's where that is. And so I've gotten to meet a lot of. I have some friends who are from Senegal or Ghana that I've met since I've been here, and I don't know, they've helped me learn so much because I was ignorant in a lot of things. We think that as African Americans we are the most persecuted a lot of times, and that's just not the case. It's not the case. It's important for us to recognize that the diaspora is huge. Actually, that's not even the diaspora, that's the motherland. But our community of Black people is huge, and our stories are varied, but we are still united if we choose to be. And we need to, I think that is important to hear out these different stories and respect them and support them morally or however we can. So anyways, that's my tangent about that. But yeah, so I found my communities in different ways because of that. Yeah, well, what was the question? The question was how,
the diversity.
Yeah, so there's definitely diversity here. It's just being open to meet people who are experiencing life in a different way, right? If you're looking for someone who is also a Black expat who is in the exact same position as you in life, like I don't know what that means, but yeah, then things are going to be difficult for you. Because I could probably find one or two other Black Americans here, but like, what are the chances that we actually have things in common, right? Out of all the African Americans that there are, what are the chances that I actually want to happen to be on the same page as this person? So
because you can connect you can meet because you have that one certain bond or trait from we're you know, what, I don't want to say trait. Anyways, you can meet just because you may come from the same area, but that doesn't mean that you're going to truly connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that does not, like, if I find an African American here, like, I'm gonna do everything in my power to
we meeting.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna give it a try.
And that's another cool thing about being here, is that I end up hanging out with people that I never would have ended up hanging out with in the United States, because you have very specific criteria and you can like nitpick because you're in your community. But you know, I've met people from so many different backgrounds or with so many different viewpoints that I most likely would not have been friends with in the United States. I just never would have gotten the chance to really sit down and connect with them. That's what it would be. But us all being immigrants is the common ground. And then from there, you don't have to be on the exact same, I say level in life, but there is no higher, just parallel over here or over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no hierarchy of what's better or worse.
Different struggles, different situations. Yeah.
So I end up being, I have friends who are 25 and single and living a nomadic lifestyle and have no intention of, you know, settling down anytime soon. Then I have friends who are older and, you know, closer to retirement or whatever, or, you know, so it's just, I would not have been friends with either of those two examples if I were in the United States. But here, I learn from these different people. They learn from me, so it kind of becomes like this symbiotic situation that you're in, because you're able to learn from each other instead of just all being the same. The homogeny of your social groups when you're in your home base can be not productive, but it's beneficial sometimes to have diversity in the types of people.
We are diversifying our community just by, you know, living in another country, or, you know, just traveling and being outside of your social norms. Building your own community, because a lot of times I belong to certain groups, like for example, Exodus Summit, the women there, and sometimes the first question that comes out is, how many Black people are there? Step outside the box. Just because you may decide to move someplace that maybe doesn't have the established community already, of the desired community that you want to reach already, be the first. Start somewhere. And it doesn't mean that just because there is not a foundation of Black people already in the community, doesn't mean you might be learning something from a non-Black person in this new community that you're in. So yes, I would love to see more people of color here in Zaragoza, but also I'm finding my joy and finding my things to do and finding people to connect with that are not necessarily people of color. And if I really need to get a good fix, I will head on over to Madrid, and I know people there. So, you know, because I belong to Melon in Madrid. We both belong. She got me into Melon in Madrid.
Facebook groups are so valuable.
Yes.
So when I do, you know, there's times where you are looking for just to connect with other Black folks, and I've been able to do that through social media as well. So
yeah, I
don't feel alone.
Cost of living in Zaragoza. So, as I said in my last vlog, the prices are going up, but that's not just in Spain or in Zaragoza, that's everywhere. Give me your take on cost of living, like rent and possible buying property and, like, you know, utilities, some of those things.
Okay, so the cost of living here is a lot cheaper. Especially like in comparison to other, like Madrid or Barcelona, like it's really expensive, and then it's also extremely competitive to find a flat to live in the first place, especially if you're just renting, because everything is privately owned, and so you're just competing with a lot of people whenever an apartment is available, which means they can raise the price. So, and then because there's so many expats there who are willing to pay higher amounts, then that raises the cost of living for everyone. So here, because there's not so many tourists here, there are tourists here, there are expats here, but because it's not so predominant, the community still feels like it's very much focused on the needs of Spanish people, as opposed to others coming in. In that sense, it's beneficial, because I mean, I pay like nothing in comparison to what I pay back home in the United States. So,
yeah.
I mean, rents. I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. I am on the outskirts of the city, but I'm right in front of a tram line that takes me directly into the city, and I pay $500 for it. I think it's like 100 and something square. I'm not really good on the measurements, but I think it's like at least 100 square meters. So it's a decent sized place. We definitely got lucky with this place. So I think that for this, you might end up paying like maybe 700 for a place like this without just having gotten really lucky. The people weren't here, the owners, they were more concerned about just having responsible people who are going to take care of their flat, not so much about making a bunch of money off of it. So that's why. But
so I actually, when I posted my last vlog, I said something like, I think that rent, and I didn't give any kind of like square footage or meters or whatever size of apartments, but I kind of guesstimated based on what I've seen on Idealista that rent can go anywhere from $800 to $1,300 depending, unless you find something
so
really amazing.
That $800 to $1,300, those are for like really central locations.
I'm a central girl. I like central.
Yeah. So, but we're talking about like the higher end areas. So, I was just on Idealista yesterday just because I was trying to prove my partner wrong about the pricing of apartments right now. And yeah, we went to a friend's house, and it was a smaller place, but it was super cute, and it was on like one of the more expensive neighborhoods of the city. And he was saying it was going to be, it was probably like $600 a month, and I was like, no. This is at least $800, and that's exactly what it was on Idealista. $800 for, that was what, a 2-bedroom. Actually, I think that was like a 3-bedroom. They had converted one of the rooms into a closet. So it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, beautiful, well located. About $800. If you want to be outside, I mean, the city is small, so if you want to pay a premium to be right in the middle of the city or in the most expensive part of the city, fine. But the city, you can, on a bike, you can get across the city in 45 minutes from one end, all the way from one end to all the way to the other end. So it doesn't really make sense to pay that if that's not like super comfortable and convenient for you to do. Like, be in Delicias, be in all these other neighborhoods, and then when you get there, you end up realizing, first of all, how easily connected it is, because a lot of times you don't realize it when you're already in the center. You get to know the city better because you're in areas that are not filled with just like tourists or where everybody wants to go. And you find that there's a lot of really cool things in those areas that are untouched, right? So you kind of have it to yourself.
Yeah. So, because I am definitely I guess what I call the inner city snob. I love to be like in the thick of things. I like to be right there in the middle. But Kayla's absolutely right. Especially in Zaragoza, you can take the tram from this end where we are now, which is the southern Zaragoza.
Southern part of
and get to the northern side within 30 minutes, and it's just so easy. But yeah, so it's cheaper than some places in the U.S. So the rent here, like maybe on the southern parts or in the suburbs, would be like maybe what, the $500 to $700, you think?
Yeah, I think you probably max out like $700 here. And then in the center, yeah, you can go up to $2,000 if you want to.
Yeah, if that's your plan, if that's your mission, if that's your budget, go for it.
You know, I know people who've got like a little studio apartment and paying God knows what to be right there at the Pilar, which is like the big church in the middle of the city. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I also know people who have done that who are now like, God, please get me away from this, because that's also where all of the
events
all the noise passes through there. You get no peace, no quiet. And so yeah, being a little bit on the outskirts, also, I say outskirts, but it's really not. I mean, I'm on the outskirts, but I'm talking about like other parts of the city that aren't the most expensive place to live, is also great, because you know what's going on in the city, and you can go there, have your fun, and then come back to your peace and quiet in your flat that's not 3 times the price.
Like the first apartment that you and your husband had, at the time your boyfriend had, when we came back, I came back to Zaragoza in April. I ended up staying in the same neighborhood. It was like a block away from where you used to live. Mm-hmm. And that's in the city, but it's not like again, in the city center. It's, so you can walk away and get away and just be fine.
You know about that's the city center still.
That's still the city center?
It's Casco Viejo, which is just like the old neighborhood.
Okay.
So yeah, that's still extremely central, and you would get the noise, and also we're living in a box for the same amount that we pay now. That place was super small. It was smaller than, I think the whole place is about the size of
This living room?
2/3 of my living room. Yeah, and we were paying the same amount.
One thing I did want to just bring up and let everybody know, and you can tell me. Okay, so like in Madrid, like there's siesta, so like Spain is, they have their down times. In Madrid, they don't necessarily follow, like the restaurants don't necessarily close down at what, 2 o'clock, 2 to 4, or 2 to 5, or I don't know.
So again, Madrid is a touristic city, so there
Everything
are
stays open.
restaurants that are catered to tourists, which means that they would need to stay open in those off hours, what would be off hours for the rest of Spain, so that tourists can eat at their leisure instead of having to wait for the Spanish schedule for eating. But even in Madrid, a lot of the places that are not, or not even that they're not catered toward tourists, but a lot of the places, or I'm sure that some Spanish people would argue some of the better places are still on a Spanish schedule, because they think that touristic restaurants aren't good. Some of them are good, but probably paying more for them, and yeah, all that. But here in Zaragoza, like everything is closed.
Yeah. Like on everything shuts down during the siesta time. Grocery stores on Sundays and on any kind of holidays are shut down, and there's a lot of holidays in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And there's in Zaragoza, there's a lot. So grocery stores are shut down completely on those days. I have been able to before, like on a Sunday, been able to go into town, and like the El Campo, I'll find like maybe 1 or 2 grocery stores that are actually open, and like the big ones. But like out here, in the suburb of Zaragoza, yeah, the grocery stores are shut down on Sundays and on holidays, and restaurants, they pretty much strictly adhere to, we're shutting down like at whatever the siesta time, 2 o'clock, I'll just say.
2 o'clock is lunchtime.
Oh,
so
okay.
2 to 4 o'clock is lunchtime, so they'll usually be open from 2 to 5. And then they close, and then they open again at 8 for dinner.
Okay.
That's lunchtime. Siesta is usually between like 4 to, I guess, dinner time. 4 to 6 generally.
Yeah, because we went to that burger place last week, Madison, and they opened up all the restaurants were opening up at 8 o'clock, 8:30. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna live here, what do you think? Give some insight about the education. Give your feedback on what you think about the educational system here, and especially having a child of color. Do you think that you will have her in the local schools, or what about the international schools that they might have that you have options for?
So this is a big topic for us right now. My daughter is 1.5 years. They start school at 3, so she's in daycare now. So it's really not that far away. We have 1 more school year, and then she'll be starting school. Since I worked as an assistant or a teacher in the schools, I was able to kind of get a glimpse into how things are, and I mean, they're fine. I guess. That's what I say. They're fine. I think that it depends a lot on where you are and the teacher, just the luck of the draw of which teachers ended up being there. So the way that they actually assign teachers here. So you don't get to go and apply to the school that is most coveted and that pays more money, and then you get to work there. So that has the benefit of like making the schools more even, the public schools more even, instead of having all the good teachers over here and these rich areas and all of the bad teachers over here. However, the teachers have to go through they basically earn points based on things that they do to become better teachers, and the more points they have, the more freedom they have to choose where they work, and they end up getting placed in schools that are considered ideal schools for them. So there is still some level of that, good teachers go this way and bad teachers go that way. It's just not as extreme.
Are you speaking on the teachers or the teachers' assistants, what you were doing? The teachers. Okay.
The actual teachers.
Okay.
Yeah. The government sends them to where they choose, but they can earn points. I say points because I don't know what the word is for that, but they can earn
merit.
They can earn merit in order to have a little bit more freedom to choose where they go. or to get better chance of going to where they want to go, which I guess would be the more central schools as opposed to like schools in the pueblos. So that's where things I think get tricky, is the schools in the pueblos, the towns around here can be less than ideal from what I understand. Education system, there's that. That's how the distribution of teachers works. I would like where I am, there's like really no diversity in the schools that I see. So I don't like that for my daughter. And it is a good school. I know it's a good school. We actually have like 5 schools right on like the same block over here. So I know that, but I would like to do some research into the idea of her going into a school in the city, actually, so she has more diversity around her, like behavior issues or whatever. Yes, they tend to be higher in the city because you have people coming from different experiences and different struggles, whereas out here, those experiences tend to be a little bit more homogenized. But I plan to take an active role in raising my daughter as well, so I hope to be able to counteract that. But I feel like the value of her being around diversity it can be a real game changer for her. So I haven't done that. I haven't done all the research yet. I think about her going to an international school, which usually still isn't that diverse in terms of like there being Black and brown folks there. It's just diverse and there are people from other countries there. But if not an international school, I think at least a school in the city, even if we live out here.
One of the things I did forget to mention when I was talking about some of the great things about Zaragoza was parks and recreations. They have the Parque, what is the name of that big park that you?
Parque Grande.
Parque Grande. So as far as things to do around here, I know there's Parque Grande that has like different events, and it's a beautiful park. And then also the fact that there, besides the mall, there's like, in the city center area, there's so many stores and restaurants, and you have Sephora, you have the Corte Inglés, which is like the equivalent of a Macy's, Dillard's, or whatever. So tell me about like some of the recreational things that you've been able to experience here in Zaragoza.
So a lot of what Spanish people tend to do, or a very common thing for Spanish people to do on the weekends, is to go hiking, like be in nature, or they go to their pueblos. Like all of them have family that's from a certain pueblo, and so they'll go back there.
Back to their hometown. So some people are like, maybe what is a pueblo? It's just going back to their hometown, their village.
Their hometowns, but yeah, so hiking or being out in nature is like what people do, which makes sense. I mean, if everything, for example, on holidays and Sundays, everything is closed, and I think for us, like on holidays and these off holidays, for holidays and Sundays, a lot of what we do is go shopping or go and buy stuff to some extent, but you can't really do that. And so they use that time to go hiking or biking or running or whatever, or picnics, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, we have a lot of just like, you have Parque Grande, which is like an official park, but there's just a lot, like, especially where I am, you can just turn the corner and there's like hiking, or there's running trails at least. And then if you go
I forgot about that.
30-45 minutes outside of the city in car, then you'll be like in nature where you can actually do some hiking, and there's like cliffs or rivers and stuff like that. So I think that's most of the recreation here. Sports, like active things, are recreational here.
And then you went the indoor rock climbing, so they have that here. That you've done that.
Yeah, I've been trying to make an effort to, when I meet up with friends and stuff, that instead of it always being let's meet up and eat at a restaurant or go and get coffee, I would like to incorporate my goals for an active lifestyle into my socializing. So yeah, we try and do stuff like that. Let's meet up and go for a jog, or let's meet up and go rock climbing or go pole dancing, which is on my list. I need to sign up for that like today actually. But yeah, so stuff like that is probably, it's more common, I think, for like the majority of people, including like really old people, to like do something active as they're socializing as opposed to shopping. I don't really see a lot of people being like, hey, let's go shopping to meet up.
Okay. So there's stuff to do here. There's a lot of, you're not limited just because you're in a less populated area. This is just, there's so many wonderful, great opportunities to experience something different. It's, simple, getting outdoors or just, to walk around. One of the things that I noticed when I've come here before is, and Kayla kind of brought this to my attention, is because here a lot of people there's not as many people with cars because everybody rides the tram, but I loved seeing couples, or just people randomly just walking and holding hands. I saw a lot of that, and I was just like, oh, that's amazing. But it could be like, couples, it could be, siblings, it could be mother, daughter, just family. But it's just like there's an affection, there's a open affection that just seems to be very prevalent here, that it's beautiful just to see. With no shame of showing affection to your grandmother or to your spouse or partner. They walk around holding hands, and it's just, nothing is frowned upon, like, oh, you're considered weak. No, it's just love, and that's just how it is here. Is that right?
I mean, I see it. I guess I never thought so hard about it. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm a thinker. Yeah.
But yeah, walking in itself is a different type of connection, or allows you to connect on a different level than going for a drink or going out to eat, because there's something else to focus on in that situation. But when you're walking, you're literally just there with that person or with these people.
I did want to say this. Okay, so one, the streets here, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but overall the streets here are great. I know, like, some people have talked about, like, in certain parts of Mexico, they're like, well, the city is great, but the potholes are just like, you could break a neck, or break a leg. I've noticed that the streets here are great as far as for somebody that might have some kind of like disabilities, maybe if they're in a wheelchair, they can't get around a lot. So it seems great. You do have to make sure that if anywhere that you're going to stay, whether it's Airbnb or whatever, make sure that, well, that's with any place, check to see if it has an elevator. So if some buildings may not be wheelchair accessible, but for the most part, I see no issues with people being able to get around in their wheelchairs. I'm sure there's some challenges for some that I wouldn't know about, but overall, would you agree with that?
Yeah, after having my daughter and having to be with a stroller, you notice things a lot more. And we've traveled quite a bit with her so far, and Zaragoza is definitely the most I'll say stroller friendly, because I don't have experience with a wheelchair, but stroller friendly place that we've been. Madrid is not comparable. Barcelona is not comparable. Oh, and don't get me started on like Portugal. No. It's just, the city itself is just like it's just a mountain range. So it's very difficult with a stroller. Everybody figures it out, but like even entrances to different places here, usually there's some sort of like wheel accessible way to get into them. But there's places that we've gone to in Madrid or Barcelona where it's just like it would be absolutely impossible for someone with a wheelchair to get in here.
Yeah, and remember our experience with the subways and the elevators not working in Lisbon?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was horrible. So, other than that, anything else you want to
add? Well, I will mention that Zaragoza right now is growing like crazy. Like, it's growing like crazy. Everywhere I go, there are new buildings being built everywhere we go. And I wish that I was in a place right now to be able to invest in a flat or, real estate here, because it's a really great time to do that, because you can just see how much it's growing. I even noticed it like on the Tranvia, which is the only way I get home. It used to be that by the time I got out to my stop, or I got closer to my stop, since I'm very far along on that line, the Tranvia would be empty by the time I got off. But now, like, the Tranvia stays full until the very end. Yeah. Because it's growing so much that even like the areas that are off the beaten path are being filled up with people, and so people are having to take the Tranvia all the way out, and then they take a bus or they walk or whatever to get home. So the city is growing, which is fantastic. I'm happy to see it. For my point of view, if you're looking for a happy medium between the hustle and bustle of Madrid, Zaragoza is a great place to look at, especially if you're thinking long term. If you're thinking long term, definitely Zaragoza over Madrid. And I say that as someone who is I'm a really big fan of Madrid. It's also an hour and a half away on the train from here. So I really don't miss anything from Madrid. And if I do, I just go there. So.
Yeah. And so with me getting ready to try to move here next year to Madrid, because I love Zaragoza, but that's not my mission. That's her mission. But I'm so excited because if I'm moving to Madrid, again, the train ride to Zaragoza is like an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and 20, maybe an hour and 30 minutes, depending on the day. So very convenient. But I'm sorry, what were you saying? About
it's a growing city.
Yeah.
It's got or will have within the next 5 years. Like I just can't even imagine what the city's gonna look like in the next 5 years. But I'm excited for it, and it's a interesting time to be here. I feel like there's been times where I've gone to different cities, and I'm like, man, I wish that I had been there for the come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's at this point where it's almost inaccessible. You can't get in now, where the standards are very high as far as like it's really expensive to live there now. And I just think, man, it would have been great if I were able to get in to that city earlier. And that's where Zaragoza is right now, where this is like a great point to get into the city, invest in the city if you can or whatever. But really, it's just, like once you live there, then things kind of flow easier. But for me, like the idea of going to Madrid seems impossible. Not impossible, but just like such a task in itself, because you have to pay more for everything. It would just have to be a whole change of life. So anyways,
since I'll be living there, so she'll be able to come when she feels like it, if she needs a getaway. 2024, I'm speaking get into existence. Yeah. So I'm planning on living in Madrid. So if ever she just needs to get away, or just be like, I'm coming into town, she got a spot. Right.
Or if I just want to get away and I want to drop my daughter off.
Yeah, that too. Anyways, okay. So again, thank you so much, guys, for joining. This is a great, valuable information. Wasn't she just awesome? Ain't my baby just awesome? And I really do appreciate you guys sticking around and watching. And again, this is Locating Cozy. So make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And so you'll be notified whenever I post some other great, valuable information. Okay? Talk to you later. Bye.